What's really rewarding is the fact that you roll your sleeves up and you work side by side. It's about what I can do when I'm at work. And when you roll your sleeves up and I round every day as a CEO or president, that makes a huge impact, because then when we start bringing concepts of AI and further enhancements of AI, it's not a surprise. Right. And if I sat in the corner and kind of made decisions by myself and then rolled it out, I can guarantee you that the reaction would not be advantageous. They would push back.
Terry, thanks so much for joining us today. Terry's a leading healthcare consultant in the space, working with a series of private practices across the country. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and want to wish you a great holiday.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, maybe let's start with just the beginning, right? How did you get into it? Just want to hear a little bit of your story and how you got into the space and ultimately, went about leading all these large organizations.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it to about 3 hours. Just no, I'm kidding. No, what's awesome about life, I've been in healthcare leadership for 32 years, almost 32 years. I've actually been in leadership 35 years. And I get this question asked all the time. And recently, I'll answer it the way I answered it to my daughters. So I have two wonderful daughters, 17, 19, and they said, "Dad, why'd you go into leadership?" And so if I go back and unwind the journey, it really started back in high school. Grew up in central Wisconsin. All my friends' parents were doctors, physicians. I just loved it. I thought it was cool. And so in addition to that, I, in high school, was in a great entrepreneur class where I said, hey, one day I think I'm just going to improve healthcare. I'm going to improve businesses, and I've never stopped. And so for me, it's been the spirit of leading in healthcare, the industry, and I've been blessed. I have been really blessed to work with just phenomenal people across the industry for 32 years. But there's a lot of other layers of why I went into it. I'm passionate about influencing and helping people, caring for people. And at one point, I thought about being a physician. And, the more I thought about it, I'm like, maybe I'll go the business route where I can influence everyone. And I've been able to accomplish that over 32 years. Still going strong, but yes, 32 years I've been in the industry. And
you've had roles as CEOs, as chief compliance officer, as strategic advisors. How have these shaped how you think about compliance and operational excellence? And maybe you can give a couple examples of each.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And, where I started layering compliance to operations were through a number of experiences I had earlier in my career. And how that played out, out of respect, I won't reference the organizations, but there was two multi-specialty groups that the physicians asked, hey, Terry, can you come in? Can you assess our operations? Can you help us take us to the next level? And I did that. And so I came in, and I have a playbook. If anyone ever wants to call me, I'll share it. But I have a playbook where I walk in and assess whether it's hospital operations or independent practices. And so I came in and I started assessing things. And from an operational perspective, hey, they're doing some really cool things. But from a compliance side, as we all know over the course of time, compliance and regulatory has started to trump a lot of things in today's operational arena. And so as I started peeling back through these opportunities, I found some disparity, some really cool opportunities where, when I go into a multi-specialty group that has 8 specialties, they were doing things 8 different ways. Mm-hmm. And you have to remember something about, reimbursement and all of your payer contracts. You're held to a standard when it comes to payer contracting and from a compliance perspective. And so it resonated really clear that in order to lead with spirit and lead the way you need to in healthcare, you really have to look at both of them. You can't just look at one without the other.
Right. That's interesting. And, you, I think back in 2013, started your own consulting firm, right?
I did.
I'm sure you spoke to numerous groups specifically about this, among a lot of other things as well.
Correct.
What did that teach you that now you've applied being the CEO of APG Associated Physicians Group? Curious some of the takeaways and how you think about running day-to-day operations today.
Yeah, it's interesting because the independent physician space, the scope is broad. You will step into opportunities where they're smaller, they're larger, and really what I found is just the lack of education. And when you think about the journey, that if you compare two leaders, if you compare a physician leader and you compare an operational leader, an operational leader has to go seek out compliance training. There really isn't all of these courses that say, hey, you're going to learn about compliance. And think about a physician. I mean, they're blessed to treat patients, and they don't have that. So what I found really that was prevalent is, when I came in there and I started assessing the physicians, just where they're at and the leadership, they just, what you don't know, they don't know. And so I've gone down this journey in multiple areas of leadership. And when I do step into opportunities, one of the first things I do is assess where that knowledge point is, where the gap is, and then I will immediately start putting intervention and putting training programs together, compliance plans together for them, because you can't have one without the other. And it's been a little overwhelming in a great way, because for someone who's been in the industry 32 years, I assume those things are in place. Well, right? The saying, don't assume. And so when I go in, I take a very basic assessment approach, and when we're done, we put in place what we need to.
That's amazing. As you think about, let's talk about AI for a second, because I'm sure this has been top of mind for you as you think about transformation, and I'm sure you've brought that into your organizations. What are you the most excited about in terms of maybe tools that you're deploying? And then what are you a little bit worried about?
I think that's the hot button. That's a hot question out on the street right now.
Yeah.
For within the healthcare space. AI is cool. I really put it in perspective because, as you think about how operation and optimization over the course of time changes, if you go back 30 years, 20 years, what change used to take this long, maybe it was a year. Today it literally takes a week. I mean, you're having to pivot, you're having to change and move directions quickly. AI is something that really you need to take the time to understand it. I have had the ability to take AI and really integrate it into the day-to-day workflows for the physicians, the day-to-day workflows for the revenue cycle, and we're just getting started. And that scares people, because one of the misnomers that I have to answer this question all the time is, well, AI is going to replace everybody. Well, no, it's not. What AI is going to do is what it is doing in our space is, one, it's really helping the physicians become more efficient. They get everything done in and out, they can go home quicker. It's more accurate. It doesn't replace the human being. You still have to have the human touch, but the more you research, the more you can apply the concepts of AI and just the accuracy and the ability to move things quicker. It's not going to go replace people. So when I get an email that says, the world's falling apart because AI is going to take over, it's not going to take over. Jobs are changing at a rapid pace, and that's not a bad thing. When it's all said and done, you have to leverage AI to your advantage.
That's right. And how should practices and practice owners and executives think about implementing AI into their day-to-day operations? Like, do you have a good framework around that?
Yeah, I do. And it really starts with, and I think in life, because I spend a lot of time coaching and mentoring physician leaders and operational leaders, the one thing I always tell them is, first, don't assume everybody understands it. And so what I do to help, and I've learned how to do it because when I did it the first time, there was an area of opportunity. Sure. So the first thing I always do is pull the stakeholders together, and that includes the physicians, all of them. And it starts with just the education pieces and what does it look like and how is it going to impact you? What is it going to cost? What's the return on investment? So I like to lay out a really detailed execution plan on when you're going to bring AI into the workflow. Because the first thing when AI is announced, nurses or support staff are going to say, well, I guess AI is going to replace me. No, and actually over time, what has been cool, and we've semi-tracked this, the job satisfaction for the support staff and the physicians has increased greatly with AI. Where everyone thought it's going to go the other way, it's actually gone north versus south. So it is, it's something that's front and center, and we put it on every board meeting. We put it on every leadership, LDI, all the training is that we're going to continue to leverage it.
Yeah, it's interesting because what ends up happening is all the repetitive tasks are the ones that require you to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. They end up getting replaced. And then you can work on the things that are the highest leverage and things that give people the most meaning in the work that they're doing as well.
Yeah, and I love partnering because, another reason why I went into healthcare years ago is, I'm a caregiver. When I started my healthcare career, I went straight out to Arizona for years. And, when I talk about my journey, I started out running, quite a few assisted living senior, and I was a CNA. My sleeves are rolled up as a director of operations, and as you're in the weeds, partnering over my career, and I've been in every space from inpatient, outpatient, ambulatory. There isn't anything I haven't touched. What's really rewarding is the fact that you roll your sleeves up and you work side by side. I've worked side by side in every single role I've been in. People who know me, I don't really care about titles. Some people do. I don't. It's about what I can do when I'm at work. And when you roll your sleeves up and I round every day and I'm side by side as a CEO or president, that makes a huge impact, because then when we start bringing concepts of AI and further enhancements of AI, it's not a surprise.
That's right.
And if I went and sat in the corner and kind of made decisions by myself and then rolled it out, I can guarantee you that the reaction would not be advantageous. They would push back. And so I think if you throw it up front and you're honest about it, it's not going away. And what we do too is we push out as much communication across the house as we can. Not only what I'm currently doing for this group, but I have dozens of relationships and networks where we share all this information. And so then we're industry leaders. We have to know it. And every day we learn something new, which is fantastic.
That's right. Switching gears a bit, you've been credited with a series of turnarounds, right? Whether it's practices or ASCs. Maybe talk to us about that.
Yeah, that's, turnarounds requires a special skill set. It does. And I'll kind of walk through a little bit the playbook that I've created over the past, probably 10 to 15 years. It's a wild journey. When someone says we want to bring in a leader to help facilitate a turnaround, that has a lot of meaning. And to most individuals, they won't understand what that means. And so if I think about the 3-4 of the most recent turnarounds, each one has been different. Different in the sense that the organizations were at a different place of what their definition of a turnaround was. So I'll kind of walk through the simplicity of it, where I'll kind of do it in quick, like step 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 1 is you come in the front door, right? And I go through a 30-day assessment of every KPI, every piece of operations there is, from quality metrics. What's the satisfaction like? What's the volume like? I round and spend 20 full-time days rounding, talking to staff. And the biggest determinant of a turnaround, because everyone's different, is where do they want to go, right? What is the reason for the turnaround? Do you want to just improve your operations, improve your margins, take home more money, or do you want to tee up for an exit? And I've been blessed to do all three, actually. Mm-hmm. I've done one where a group said, hey, we just want to be more efficient. Another group wanted to fully transact and sell to a PE group. and then the other group we did a two-way joint venture. So I think when you talk about turnaround, you have to really understand the reason for it, and then once that's determined out futuristically, you then have to back into getting every stakeholder involved and engaged and understand the progress. I'm kind of still old school with Gantt charting. Love it. Absolutely love Gantt charting. I lay out a 24 to 36 month turnaround plan with toll gates and points of celebration and assessment, and you have to communicate frequently. Every other week, every month, you need to be giving updates to the stakeholders as to where the progression is in regards to the turnaround. It's a lot to chew on. There's a lot there.
Right.
But if you communicate, and you identify your goal, you'll get there.
Absolutely seems like a unique skill set, and one that, oftentimes organizations are coming to you in their time of need as well,
Yes.
right? And I think the ability to help them, I think, is incredible. On the flip side, sometimes you have organizations that may try to grow too fast, right?
That happens.
Where, hey, they want to grow and that's amazing, but maybe the financials aren't there, or maybe the planning wasn't done properly,
Yep.
etc. Talk to us about cases like that and what you've done to avoid situations.
Yeah, I had one a few years ago that registers, and I'll share. And it was a multi specialty group, and they're doing really well. And they wanted me to step in. They wanted me to clean up operations and get them to a point where they were then going to discuss transacting. And what was interesting about that opportunity, I followed the same playbook. And as we were cleaning everything up, and we started bringing to, about the 18th month mark, we brought it to a board session. And what was interesting is all of the partners weren't on the same page. And so that creates a problem, right? And so we didn't pause on all of our improvement efforts. We were still driving improvement. But we actually had to bring the team together to say, okay, 3 of the partners wanted to continue to accelerate the growth. 2 others wanted to they want to slow it down. They wanted to invest less dollars in the expansion. And so we had a conflict. And so we had to sit down and really work through quite a few sessions
Right.
to get back on the same page. Because if you don't have a clear plan when you're turning your business around or growing your business or wanting to transact, it is going to hit a brick wall further downstream. And so again, I want to go back and reiterate again the importance of initially getting all the stakeholders on the same page, aligned. I always I'm old school again. I actually have them sign off on a commitment document, and then they can't back wheel. That has happened as well in my career. So, you just have to really be respectful, and you have to get everybody aligned.
When sometimes you go into these organizations and you try to pull KPIs, oftentimes they're in maybe Google spreadsheets, or there's like a version of a KPI, but it's not quite what you're looking for, or it's not tracked in real time and it's stale data. How do you build that discipline to say, look, these are the metrics that we're going to look at in real time. Here's how we're going to define them. And then push towards it.
Yeah, you're spot on. It's interesting because everyone has a different perspective on KPIs. If I went to 10 physicians and say, what's important to you? If we're in the ortho space and I ask 10 orthodocs, what are the KPIs that you want to look? They'll all look a little different, right? And so what I've always done is I pull an integrated team together, and we pull in physician leadership and we define what those are. And we hash through it, we talk through it, and we all agree to this is what we're tracking, this is what's going to go on the integrated dashboard, the KPI dashboard. And what we've always done then is as we progress through change and time, we push that dashboard out on a regular basis. It's unblinded.
Right.
It's transparent, and so we want to make sure that we're not missing a step. Every once in a while, we'll have someone push back. We'll say, should we add this? And I'll be like, you know what, let's stay true, because we're vetting out those KPIs for a reason. each one of those KPIs will tie into operational excellence. And if you dilute all your KPIs and you start washing out what's critical that you have to manage, you're not going to end up where you want to be at the end.
That's right. On the transformation piece as well, a lot of folks look at compliance like a checkbox. Like, hey, compliance has to be done. It seems like you think about it a bit more strategically and actually a way to drive growth within these groups as well. How do you think about it?
I do think of it differently. And the only reason why I say that is because people tell me. And I would tell you that too, that compliance, unfortunately, compliance is by far, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 people in the industry think it's just check a box. Well, it's only until an organization, and it happened prior to me stepping in, but one of the practices that I stepped into prior to my arrival, the previous year had some compliance. They got called out on some things, and they realized, wow, we were just checking a box, but we didn't take it serious. And so I'll back into what's really personal for me around compliance. We live in a compliance industry, period. Healthcare has become so much more regulatory. I spend a lot of time on the payer contracting side as well, and I can tell you that all of the payer contracts have integrated compliance requirements. And so what I've done, which is a really unique piece, not only to my leadership, but to how I lead, is I actually embed compliance ambassadors. And I'm a certified compliance officer as well. And so I went out years ago, 2018, and spent time to become certified as an ethics and compliance officer. And part of that journey taught me, through people who were doing it better than what I was doing, put together a very integrated ethics and compliance ambassadors. And who these people are, let's say you have a multi-specialty group of 8 specialties, you literally put in place an ambassador per specialty.
Sure.
And then you integrate on a monthly basis and start talking through what are they seeing. It's not about being punitive. The first time I did it, the organization kind of freaked out because they were like, oh my God, Terry's putting in place these watchdogs around compliance. And so at the first all staff meeting, the first thing I did is I really wanted to set the record straight and say, here's the reason why. It's not about punitive oversight, is about being proactive. And so that integration of ethics and compliance officers really helps you remove the concept of checking a box. Now, the unfortunate thing is, organizations still view compliance as checking the box. They still say, hey, what's the return on investment for compliance? But I can tell you, every organization I've stepped into, I have invested in a compliance program. I've invested in a compliance ambassadors, and that's something that I will continue to do. So it's ongoing. It's something that always has to be discussed. But yes, I don't view it. I think I'm a better leader embedding compliance and integrating it into my daily leadership.
Got it. Cultural transformation is something that's recurring, right? You're in many ways changing the way a practice operates, right? And
Correct.
what is considered positive versus negative towards the culture. What are the signs that someone is ready for this transformation versus isn't quite ready for it?
That's the best question of the day. I will tell you, because I can really provide some nice detail on this question, because I've been there and I've seen a lot. And here's really the intuitive sense that you get when you go into a practice. And so some practices are ready, some are not. And what I have found that when they think they're ready, they may not be. And this will all make sense as I continue. So when I go in, there's a list of things that I look at very closely. And you cannot do it remote, you cannot do it virtual. You have to be in the work. And so what I do within the first 3 to 4 weeks, my leadership is very unique because I don't sit behind a desk. I work within the healthcare setting. I have an office. But I spend all that time asking and really getting into the weeds on a number of things. The first one is I spend a lot of time not interviewing the staff, talking to them. I'm a relationship leader. It is about relationships. And so I build that trust, and I really get the honest insight and opinions about, hey, how's the organization doing? What do you see is going well? What isn't? How do you like working here? So I have a couple buckets that I go into. The first one is I look at just the people side of it. And that's critical because we all know that having the right people, labor, is becoming more and more of a challenge as we move forward. So there is the staff piece. Then I pivot, and then I go to the providers. And I spend time actually shadowing providers. I get their blessing to shadow them. And I spend time getting to know them, and I really get to understand where is their mind at. Do they want to change their business? Do they not? Then I flip to the entire financial piece of it. I go deep. I review everything from every payer contract to revenue cycle to the operational performance. And I put all these three things together. I then take them to the board. I take them to the owners. And that's where the fun begins, because that is where the spirit of the decision points are made, whether an organization is ready for transformation or not. And then I challenge them too to say why, what is the reason? And if there's an indifference, we then have another meeting and talk about it. And so there are times where I'll go in, I'll assess and say, you're going to look at about a 24-month. Then I'll go in and say, hey, you got some huge barriers here, whether it's community-based or relationship-based, and it might take you 36 months. Every organization can transform. And when I hear people say, hey, we're perfect, we're awesome, well, great. I think that's fantastic. But I come from a background of continuous improvement. Every single day when I go in as a leader, I self-reflect and figure, okay, what can I do better? How can I communicate? How can I build better, stronger relationships? Because strong relationships equal trust. Trust equals operational improvement, and that means operational optimization. And so I enjoy the challenge of turnarounds. I enjoy the challenge of the collaboration and partnership, because when it's all said and done, where I have the satisfaction is I've been able to help a wonderful organization see the vision, see the improvement. And in order to survive in healthcare, you need to improve every day, every week. You can't be static. So that's a big question. There's a lot there, but that's really a big piece of what I enjoy doing, is getting in and integrating in that change.
Right. Switching gears to more personally, you clearly have a lot on your plate. How do you think about managing that versus your personal life and your fitness, and making sure there's a proper balance there such that you can do both at a high level?
Well, joking aside, healthcare is absolutely awesome but crazy, because it's requiring more and more time. It's requiring more and more. Every individual that touches healthcare has to be more efficient.
Right.
And what I've learned over time, if I look at my career, and if somebody said, Terry, 25 years ago, do you think you had great balance? I actually wouldn't even have to give it thought, and I would say no. I would tell you, no, I didn't. And so that was the turning point, actually, about 20 some years ago, when I said, hey, guess what? I have to figure this out. You need to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. And so I really started taking a very collaborative approach. This is probably the best way I can explain it, to leading in healthcare and wanting to stay in healthcare and being healthy in healthcare. And that is, first and foremost, you really have to define what's going to make you healthy, right? It comes down to, how should I eat? How should I exercise? How many hours should I work? How many hours should I sleep? And you can go out and read on a lot of things, and they'll tell you to do all. But I think the key thing that I've learned is you have to set boundaries. And setting boundaries doesn't mean that you're going to leave work early. It doesn't mean you're going to start late. But you have to figure out what that sweet spot is. And for me, I have found it. Years ago when I was younger, I could work out at night. I can't do that anymore. So I pivoted and completely reset how I take care of myself and how I lead, and that is it's morning. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the gym every morning, and I get my workout done before I hit the ground running, and I've become more efficient in what I do leading because I surround myself with just wonderful people. And so I think you just don't sell yourself short, don't sell your health short. But anyone who's been in the industry will tell you it's hard to find that sweet spot. But life is too short. And the advice that I have for anyone, whether you have a family or not, is, just remember, many years down the road, are you going to take your career with you? No, you're not. You're going to have your family. And so I have helped dozens, I couldn't tell you how many executives I've helped over the years personally. I don't charge a dime for it. It's just building great relationships to say, hey, what do you do that I can learn from, and what do I do that you can learn from? And you have to make it a priority. And I have, and I feel good that I'm probably more productive today as an executive than what I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But yeah, it's enjoyable. It's hard to find that
right.
that spot, especially when you go into Q4, because Q4 is a crazy part of the year.
Sure.
You're closing operations out, you're planning for next year, and you have timelines and deadlines, but set boundaries. That's key.
Appreciate that. As you look forward, call it the next 5 years, what are maybe the top 2 or 3 challenges that you expect physician practices to run into, or the biggest headwinds you expect that you're going to have to help solve for?
Yeah, great question. The future is going to be a whirlwind, and with what's happening today and what's going to happen in the future. And I'll share some context. I just had this discussion with a group, and the first thing is that's going to be challenging. Number one, if we're talking about private practices, independent practices, let's say they're independent then from being owned by a health system. They're going to have their challenges. The first challenge is it's almost like you hear it time and time again, is reimbursement is just getting squeezed. That continues to happen at all levels. The second thing is just the cost of operations. And I'll kind of add a couple other caveats in there: is labor, people, benefits, salaries. It is amazing what organizations have to pay today to get really, get A players. And that's cutting into the profits. I mean, it just really is. The third one is, especially for private practices, is being aligned. What I have seen in my time is, wonderful groups of physicians have kind of their own ideas of what the future looks like. Mm-hmm. And when you are misaligned, that creates additional cost, additional challenges.
Right.
And so when you put it all together, the patients are there, right? The patients are there, but the patients are aging. And so the other caveat that organizations fail to see is the fact that we are an aging population. And what does that mean? Well, you're seeing internal medicine volumes go up, you're seeing Medicare numbers go up, you're seeing reimbursement go down. And so organizations are going to be very challenged with revenue coming in, expenses going out, and then you have to layer on top of that expansion, growth. Do they expand into the surgical arena? Do they partner? Do they do joint ventures? How much debt do they want to take on? There are so many challenging discussion points. Some days I'm glad that I'm not a physician in private practice. But a lot of these practices are having to sell, having to merge, they're being acquired. And it's a shame, because what's happening is physician satisfaction is going down, and a lot of physicians are leaving the industry sooner than later. And physician recruiting is another big challenge. So there's, you and I could have a wonderful afternoon, and I could go 3-4 hours on it, but those are the key ones that are front and center and have to be dealt with.
And for those folks that want to go through this transformation that you spoke about a little bit earlier, what do they have to keep most top of mind that they absolutely have to solve for this? And I know you said each one's different, but if you think about the similar themes.
Yeah, the first thing is, what do they really want to accomplish? And it sounds simple, but it isn't, because if you're thinking about what's going to happen in the next couple of years, and we want to transform and we want to do A, B, and C, well, everything that I just said has a cost, and they really have to nail down exactly what do they want to accomplish moving forward. Once they have that, you're not through the woods yet. You still have the challenge of keeping everyone on that same path as you're moving forward, because what happens is you'll start hitting some bumps. You'll start getting some other maybe community influence. The market might be changing, or you might have some big unexpected expense. And the first thing that a lot of people want to do is pull the plug and quick pivot and do something different. And every time you knee jerk and you react, that's just going to throw you exponentially off of where you want it to be. So that's why I spend a lot of time talking to wonderful healthcare leaders and physicians, whatever I can do to influence and give back and share my experience and story. I've been doing this a long time, but every single day I learn something new.
That's right.
And so I'll go back to, when my daughters ask me, Dad, why did you go into leadership? Why did you go into healthcare? Were you okay when you made that decision? Well, of course I'm okay. I love a challenge, and it is an industry that is not for everyone, but it is an industry that will keep you on your toes, learning at an accelerated rate. And there's just so much reward when you can help practices and leaders and physicians help guide them to where they need to be. You need a lot of years to figure that out. I worked through 30 years. I had some great failures. I've had some wonderful successes, but you have to really leverage those to figure out what the secret sauce is. And when you think you figure out the secret sauce, it might change a little bit. So I think you just have to be flexible and keep moving forward and not backwards.
I love that. And the failures are just as necessary as some of the successes for you to get that insight, I think.
It is. And one practice that I've always done as a leader, years ago, I was asked to do, I wrote an article for a compliance organization, SCC, out of Minneapolis. That's where my certification lies. And I did a podcast around my leadership style. And for me, I didn't think it's different. It's unique, but apparently it is, because one, I roll my sleeves up and I get in the work. That has always been where my passion lies. But I have a really cool practice that when I huddle with the executive leadership team every week to collaborate, partner, reset, I have always started out with going around the table to say, where did we screw up? When you go into leading in healthcare, people are like, oh my gosh, you can't screw up. You can't make mistakes. Oh, you can make them. You can make them until you're blue in the face. And it's funny, as a CEO or an executive role, we all make tons of mistakes. People just don't know it. We catch it before it gets out. And so what I've always done is I go through the practice. We go around the room and we talk about where did we screw up that week. And as a leadership team, we talk about that. How do we help that leader put the right processes in place? How do we help them mentor? How do we help them coach them? But the reality of it is we all falter. And the sooner that you can be okay with that, and some leaders aren't, and then they leave the industry. But, if I look at this week alone, I probably made a half dozen mistakes, but I caught them and fixed them. And I put systems in place to catch them. And so, I pride myself on the leadership style because it forces people to be vulnerable. It really builds a very cohesive team when the CEO is sitting around the table, and when I start saying let's go start to the right, but they say no, you're starting. That's pretty. It's pretty powerful, and it's actually enjoyable because I've always been fine with my mistakes. I'm humble enough to know that. I'm human and things are going to happen. So, again, it's an industry that's you need to surround yourself with just really good people that are supportive and that want to jump on that train for optimization.
Right.
It's not for everyone, but I would tell you it's very rewarding.
Maybe the final question I had was, if you were to write a playbook, and maybe you already do, on either JVs or ASC development and folks that wanted to get into that, what do you think your main points or your main takeaways would be from that playbook?
Yeah, that's a fantastic closing question. Yeah, thanks for throwing the tough one at the end. Yeah, it has a couple spins on it, right? So if we use the example that, let's say we have a multi-specialty group. We don't have an ambulatory surgery center. Let's say we don't have high-end imaging, and so those two pieces that I just referenced have fantastic revenue that drops to the bottom line: surgery, imaging, ancillary. So if we I'll answer the question with this example. If you have that multi-specialty practice and they're running their day in and day out, and they're saying, okay, we need to step our game. We need to grow. We need to expand. We need to start dabbling into the ambulatory surgery environment through ASC. Here's my advice for them. The first piece is partner with your executive leadership team. So pull your board together, your physician leaders, and talk about what does that really mean? Because when you start investing in the future of high-end ancillaries and ambulatory surgery, there is a very healthy startup cost to it. We won't go into details, but if you're going to go purchase, lease high-end equipment, imaging equipment, it's expensive. If you're going to move into an ASC environment, how do you want to do that? Do you want to go and lease space from someone, which obviously reduces the amount of revenue? Number two, do you want to go build your own ambulatory surgery center, which a lot of times they look at what the cost would be to do that. It's a very healthy cost. The third option is, do you want to partner and do a joint venture with someone? And you can do that joint venture on the imaging side. You can do the joint venture on the ambulatory surgery side. But then that triggers other difficult questions. Who are you going to partner with? Who are you going to do a joint venture with? How is that going to be perceived in the local market? If your community has 3 competing health systems, and depending on where your patients are going and who you're credentialed with, some of those health systems may not want you to be doing surgery in a surgery center with another competing entity. Right. So it's a hot mess. And here's what I would suggest is it comes down to, the playbook is really simple in my mind. It comes back to the collaborative, partnering, strategic conversation around with the owners who live in the community. What will be the best relationship that's going to help you get to where you need to be? I can tell you right now, because I've done it many times across the country, physicians are not going to partner with a competing entity that's going to put a negative spin or perception on their practice. Sure. So they just have to figure that out. And a lot of times what they end up doing, if it's a multi-specialty group with high-end, high revenue specialties like ortho, spine, pain, they just go build their own surgery center. And guess what they get to do? They get to equip it. They get to run it the way they want. They can drive optimization. They can really provide a great service. So I think it all depends on the state of which groups. And the other thing, too, is, how long do the partners want to run out an investment? If you go build a surgery center, it is quite a few years to pay that off. But sure. So it's a great question. It has a lot of different spins to it. But I really enjoy when a group will reach out to me and say, hey, you know what, can we just pick your brain for a little bit? And so I feel I can create some value add based on the experiences that I've had. And if I can give them some kudos that will help them guide them, I guess that's why I'm in healthcare.
Absolutely. Well, Terry, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing insights. I learned a lot. I'm sure the viewers will as well. And so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Have a great holiday.